Check. We are live. What up? Doing a little NFL recap. Either Mondays or Tuesdays, but this week we got it on a Monday since we had the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills play Monday night. We're going to try to, whenever the locals play on a Monday night, we'll probably save the recap for Tuesday. But a lot of things happened this weekend when it comes to the NFL. A lot of things happened after this weekend. A lot of things happened just today. So in case anybody out there has not heard the news, the Jets have officially finalized the trade for Davante Adams. So he is a Jet and is expected to play this weekend. And as well as that, Amari Cooper is no longer a Cleveland Brown. He is headed to the Bills. So AFC East teams both picking up wide receiver help. I guess Keon Coleman has not gotten off to the rookie start that the Bills expected. And I guess, as we saw last night, Mike Williams dropping the ball. He has not gotten off to the same kind of start chemistry-wise that the Jets would have expected. So, yeah, a lot of things happening, a lot of things moving. We'll go through the games. We'll go through the picks that we made this week. The picks contest is getting hot. I've taken the lead with a big 3-0 week. Hit all three of my picks, 1.2.3 points. That puts me in front, but not by a lot. This is always a close competition that will go down probably through the playoffs like we did the last couple of years. But nevertheless, I feel good. Feel good about my picks. Feel like I'm ready to go on a little bit of a streak here, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, so we had the Thursday night game, 49ers Seahawks. Wasn't too eventful. I guess the 49ers kind of laid the smackdown on the Seahawks. Seahawks were never really, they were in the game, but they weren't really in the game. Or at least I never really felt like they were in the game. Never really felt like they were going to come back to win that one. But that was all the way Thursday ago, so not too much to get into with that game. As far as the picks that we made, so my first pick, 1-point pick, I took the Browns, and I had no reason to take it other than the fact that there was 9.5 points there on the table, and they were going up against a Philly team that I just think is flawed and should not be given 9.5 points really to anybody. If you're going to give 9.5 points to anybody, it's probably going to be the Browns with what they got going on with the quarterback situation. But even still, man, it's hard to give away 9.5 points in today's NFL unless there's some kind of extreme circumstance, injury or something like that. I can't go into. It's very hard for me to go into a game expecting a team to just blow out another team to the point where I would give 9.5. But Browns covered. Nick Sirianni, Philadelphia Eagles coach, is screaming God knows what to the fans in Philadelphia, and that to me seems like that could be the beginning of the end. Even though they won the game, living in New York, I know that there is the cardinal rule, the cardinal sin of the players. You never win a war with the fans. You never win a war with the media. I can only imagine that has to be, if not the exact same, probably worse or more intensified when it comes to Philadelphia fans. You do not want to be getting, if you're a Philadelphia athlete or a coach or anything, you do not want to be getting into it with the fans from the field. That is a recipe for disaster, and I don't know, man. I'm starting to worry about Sirianni because I didn't think that I didn't see this one coming. Didn't see this approach. I'm going to decide to, rather than focus on trying to win games and getting my team back to the Super Bowl, I'm going to focus on screaming at the home fans. Yeah, that's a tough war to win, Nick. So you might want to be careful with that one. But we'll see. As long as he wins games, they're not going to care. But as soon as they start to lose, they're going to want his head. So he better be careful with getting into it with the fans. But Browns cover. It wasn't a super impressive win for the Eagles. But at the end of the day, man, when it comes to the NFL, I feel like depending on what your expectations are, you got to kind of take the win. You take the win. You don't worry about how it looks, how it feels, how it smells, how it tastes. When the win is there, you take the win. So Philly gets the win. They're still in competition for first place in the NFC East. Giants took a tough loss that I didn't Leading up to it last week, I felt good about the Giants 3.5. Didn't make it my pick, but I was considering it. And for whatever reason, towards the end of the week, as the weekend approached, I was thinking to myself, it just doesn't feel like enough points. Now, it was enough points. The game did not go the way I wanted it to, the way I expected it to go, even though the Giants still didn't cover. But I thought it was going to be a much higher scoring game because I'm going into it thinking Bengals' strength is in the pass game and their receivers. Giants' probably biggest weakness is in their secondary. So, but at the same time, the Bengals' defense has been terrible. So I thought it's going to be really just offense versus offense. Can the Giants' defense do enough to slow down the Bengals' D? And can the Bengals' defense do enough, or can they force a turnover from Daniel Jones or something like that? But I was expecting a much higher scoring game. But just kind of, these games have been really weird. Just weird mistakes by the Giants. They were in the game the whole time, but they end up losing 17-7, and just kind of a low-scoring, ugly primetime game that I don't think anybody really took too much from. But yeah, that's what happened with the Giants. My second pick of the week, I took Tampa Bay, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous. I thought, Spencer Rattler getting this start, I was like, only 3 points for Tampa Bay. That should be a drop in the bucket. I haven't thought much of the Saints coming into this season. They got off to a hotter start than I expected, but once Derek Carr went down and they're starting this rookie, I don't necessarily have super high expectations and faith when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I did think that they should be able to handle a division rival starting a rookie quarterback in a bounce back spot for Tampa. After having extra rest, having played the Thursday before, the Saints having decreased rest, having played the Monday before, and Buccaneers coming off of a tough overtime loss in the division. So I just kind of felt like they would be dialed up and ready to go when it came to the Saints matchup. But the first half was a little bit scary because Baker was trying to bake me. He was throwing picks, he was making mistakes. And once I see the Saints going into halftime with a lead, I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But that quickly ended. I mean, it was a weird game because the Saints scored 27 points in the second quarter and don't score any points for the rest of the game. Defense couldn't get it done. Offense couldn't move the ball in the second half. And then the Buccaneers end up just blowing them out 51-27. Another kind of a dud game against the Saints for Mike Evans. It seems like this whole Lattimore situation it is what it is. He's just never going to really play well against the Saints. But they were able to get it done without him. So I felt good about that. I mean, this has to be one of the biggest plus minuses when it comes to over exceeding the spread. I mean, the Buccaneers giving 3 points. They end up winning 51-27, not even close. I guess that's a 24-point win. And then my 3-point pick, I had the Lions going into the Dallas, and we all saw how that turned out. That was kind of like a little bit of a highlight game since they had the afternoon slot. And man, the Lions I don't know if it's more that the Lions looked incredible or that the Cowboys looked terrible or just a combination of the two. But man, Lions look tough. I didn't love how they I felt like they were trying to get a little too cute towards the end, that fourth quarter, keeping all the starters in. I mean, I don't think that's why Aiden Hutchinson got hurt, but Aiden Hutchinson getting hurt was a terrible, terrible situation for the Lions. So even though, you come off of a big-time win like that, tough to have a good feeling after losing your best defensive player and somebody who he probably was going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. So, prayers up for Aiden Hutchinson. Hopefully he gets well soon. But that's going to hurt the Lions moving forward. I mean, they got a big division matchup coming up this week. Basically for first place in the NFC North. They're going to go into Minnesota and take off the Vikings. Vikings coming off of a bye after having beat the Jets the week before. They're going to be rested. They're going to be healthy. They're going to be prepared. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but Lions are definitely going to be going at it without Aiden Hutchinson, so that is a tough deal. But I mean, listen, if they play the way that they did against Dallas last on Sunday, they could beat anybody because the Dallas never had a shot. And to see Dallas, not only, I mean, I thought, if anything, I thought Dallas was at least going to, because Lions, yes, they have Aiden Hutchinson, big-time defensive lineman, pressuring the quarterback. But the Lions have not exactly been a lockdown defense, particularly on with the passing game. So for the Dallas Cowboys at home to not be able to put a touchdown on the board against that defense that's not exactly the 85 Bears, that was a tough look. I don't know where the Cowboys go from here. Now they're 3-3. They're 0-3 at home. Every loss at home has just been a disaster. I mean, they have very unimpressive wins. They have a win against the Giants. They have a win against the Cowboys, and they pulled that win out of their ass against the Steelers in that weird late night game. That, I mean, I don't even know what to make of that game. So I don't know what to make of the Cowboys, but ugly, ugly, ugly loss for them. Big win for me. My 3-point pick covers that spread by, 38 points? So a combined 38 and 24-point wins for my 2 top picks of the week. So feeling good about that. Hopefully we can carry that momentum into next week. Tough week for the rest of the crew. Unfortunately, just some things did not bounce their way. Obviously, Word Life gets the Colts pick right because he got his man Joe Flacco in there. As long as he's got Joe Flacco, he's all in on the Colts. No belief in Anthony Richardson, it seems, and I don't know. It's going to be tough because I don't know if Colts head coach Steichen is going to turn to Anthony Richardson when he's healthy if Flacco continues to play well and they can continue to win, because Richardson has not looked ready. I mean, he has all the physical tools. He's a beast, but just as far as playing the quarterback position, it doesn't seem like he's ready to be that type of, serious quarterback competitive just yet. I think he's still figuring things out. I think Flacco's actually a great veteran backup for them to have there. Hopefully you can learn a thing or two from watching him play, but I think the Colts should probably think about just keeping Anthony Richardson, maybe not out for the season, but definitely let him sit behind Flacco for a couple of weeks and kind of get his legs under him. Because this week they have the Dolphins at home. Dolphins are coming off of a bye, but they're still a mess. They still are without Tua, and they can't do anything on offense. I don't know if Achane is healthy. He might not be playing. That's a game that the Colts should be able to win with Anthony Richardson or with Joe Flacco. I would keep Richardson out. Let him sit. Let him watch Flacco cook. And, see if you can ride this Joe Flacco train the way that the Browns did last year. Obviously, it kind of crashed and burned when they finally got to that playoff game in Houston. But, for now, might as well ride it out because he's playing well and he's getting it done and he's moving the ball down the field. So, doing a lot of things that Anthony Richardson has not been able to do. So, I would keep Flacco, but that's just me. So then the other Word Life's other picks, it did not quite work out. Obviously, you had the Jets last night. Expecting Flex to jump on soon, so I'll wait to get into the Jets until he comes on. But I also had the Broncos, and the Broncos at home against the Chargers was another one of those games that early in the week last week, I thought it was a great look. I was like, bro, what the hell have the Chargers done to deserve to be road favorites in the division against the Broncos team that, picked up a couple of gritty wins, looked like the defense was playing well. Bo Nix was kind of showing some moxie. But then as it got down to it, as the game was getting closer, probably around sometime Friday night, Saturday, I was thinking to myself, you know what? You still have... Bo Nix is still a rookie. He's still a rookie. He's still capable of making those mistakes. Sean Payton, as much as I'm not a huge fan of his, he's doing a decent job, but I just never really, as it got down to it, I was thinking to myself, I don't think Bo Nix is going to be ready for for the Chargers coming in. I don't think the Chargers are a great team either, but you know how they're going to play. They're going to play that, that hard-nosed, Jim Harbaugh style of play. They're going to run the ball, play defense, throw a pass, and then keep running the ball. So that was what they did, and they pretty much controlled the game. I'll give Broncos credit. They kind of hung around, and they, Bo Nix was trying to put together some drives towards the end, but at the end of the day, they still weren't able to get it done, and still weren't able to cover that 3.5. So that one did not work out for Word Life. And then our boy Flex, he was riding with Word Life on the Broncos, so same thing, didn't work out. He was riding with me on the Bucks. That one worked out. And then he had the Giants, and as we know, the Giants couldn't get it done. Couldn't put up enough points on the board. I saw a crazy stat during the game. I think that the Giants hadn't scored a touchdown at home. I don't know, in like 8 quarters or 10 quarters, something crazy like that. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of what's going on with the Giants, considering that Brian Dable's supposed to be the offensive guy. He's supposed to be, a quarterback whisperer. I've never seen that, but at what point is he going to start whispering to Daniel Jones? At what point is he going to start whispering himself into some points on the board? Because, I feel for him that Neighbors was out, so you're without your number one receiver, but Tyrone Tracy seems to have been, getting some things going in the run game. Wandale Robinson is a good, shifty receiver. He can create some separation. He's not going to be a huge, big play threat, but, he can make some plays in short yardage situations. But I don't know, man. I don't know. The Giants, it just seems like if their defense is not completely dominating the game, I don't know where they go. And that, given what their coach's forte is supposed to be, I don't know why they're relying on the defense for them to be productive and win games. So, not sure what to make of the job that Brian Dable is doing there, but remains to be seen. We'll see how they do this upcoming week. Big game at home against the Eagles, against the floundering Eagles with Sirianni, like I said, fighting with the fans. He might have himself some problems if they go into MetLife Stadium and lose to the Giants. So, could be a good bounce back spot for the Giants. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Then the other big games of the week, obviously there was the Ravens and the Commanders. That was another one of the games that I just felt like it was too much hype behind Jaden Daniels. He's deserving of all the praise he's getting. He's deserving of all of the, talk about him and how impressive he's been as a rookie. But I just don't think the Commanders are super talented. Jaden Daniels obviously has shown that he can be a, franchise quarterback. I think I got to see a little bit more, but, he's been getting it done in a big-time way. But they don't have a running game. Austin Eckler, 9 carries for 21 yards. That's not going to get it done. Obviously, Brian Robinson was out, but he's not exactly a big-time Adrian Peterson style carry the team running back either. The receivers are okay. I think Terry McLaurin, I don't really know what to make of Terry McLaurin because I feel like he's a good receiver. For a long time, I thought that he was being held back by bad quarterback play, but I don't know if he's a number one like that. I don't know if he's a guy who, even with a good quarterback, if you need a play to be made, is Terry McLaurin the type of guy who you can count on to make a play like that in a big-time spot? I think he obviously has speed. He can fly down the field. He can cause matchup problems in your secondary if you're going up against him. But I just don't know. I feel like to be a big-time number one receiver, you got to show a little bit more consistency than Terry McLaurin has up to this point. And again, I let him slide a little bit because he hasn't had the quarterback. He hasn't had the quarterback situation to really help him out. But really, there's no excuses now. So he had a good game, 2 touchdowns, but 53 yards leaves a little something to be desired if I'm keeping it 100. But we'll see what happens with how they go for the rest of the season. Oh wow, we have a guest. We have a guest has arrived. Let's adjust this here. Let me move this here, right there, and there he is. And I've been waiting. I haven't gotten into the Jets at all. I just did a
Why? What
recap
happened?
of
What happened with them?
I just did a recap of how the picks went and did a little bit of the Giants. What I was saying, I don't know. I'll ask your opinion on this. I don't know what to make of Brian Dable because you know the Giants under his tenure have kind of been a roller coaster ride. They've been up and down on a week to week basis. Obviously, the first year they made the playoffs, and they felt like they finished the year strong. But the reality is they didn't really. That year was just as up and down as the rest of the years. It's not like they made the playoffs and they won a playoff game, but it's not like they had like a big time competitive type of season. And I feel like all of the success that at the end of the day, I feel like all the success that the Giants have had over the last 2 years and 6 weeks, it's all been on the back of the defense. And I'm just kind of like, Brian Dable is supposed to be quarterback whisperer. He's supposed to be offensive guy. Like, at what point does he have his hands and his imprint on this team? Because I don't see it.
Um, I mean that's an interesting point because it's like it's easy. Like everybody is waiting for the he turned Josh Allen into Josh Allen, Dable, right? But nobody really takes into account who Brian Dable was before, which was like a middling offensive coordinator, like old school offensive mind. He bounced around a lot of teams. He even went to Alabama for a year or two. He was terrible in Miami. He did some stuff with the Jets. Like, so he's bounced around a lot. And I mean, I still think he has elements of a good coach, like some elements of a good coach. But like you said, it's almost like and we could joke about how like I was last year I was or the year before I was repeatedly giving credit to God
Gettleman.
well Gettleman. Um but it still kind of rings true, man. Like I know obviously brought in some pieces, but for the most part, a lot of you're saying that a lot of the success has come on the back of the defense, and a lot of those defensive players were already here. So so it's like it's when I was mentioning that I was kind of saying it kind of like tongue in cheek because like we all know how much of a joke at the end of the day Gettleman was. But at what point, if we still want to blame, because this is what drives me crazy, like even when Michael K brings it up, he had to deal with the disaster that Gettleman left him. Well, I mean, for how long? Because it wasn't, you can say it was a disaster, but there was only a couple disastrous contracts on there with like the Kenny Galladay or whatever. And I know the Nate Solder. I don't know how quickly they were able to get rid of that under his tenure, but for the most part, I mean, it's kind of like it's kind of been hyperbolized, like how much damage and how many years Gettleman put them under. You know what I'm saying? Like even like it's like so we pick and choose because Joe Shane is kind of like he taught which it started kind of turning the tide a little bit after this after the Hard Knocks where he kind of like got in trouble in a couple for talking too much. But if like you're a schmoozer and you got people like it's all of these jobs are like kind of who's got your back because depending on who you are, depending on how well you're liked, the seat gets hot and cold very quickly depending on who you are, and I just it's like you kind of see how the difference between like the perception of like all of these moves and all of these players and these front office guys, because at the end of the day, there's not much that Joe Shane has done that has come through on on the field if indeed him and Brian Dable are on the same page, which we don't know. We assume they are because they came from the same place and they were hired at the same time or whatever. But it kind of seems like I kind of alluded to it during during the Hard Knocks, where it kind of seems like I don't know if it's Dable, I don't know if it's Shane, but Dable was kind of trying to separate himself a little bit from some of the decisions that that Shane was making. And I don't know if this has if some of it has to do with this because obviously Malik Neighbors is a hit, and you can see how much of a difference he did. I mean, granted, he didn't make that much of a difference in terms of the score in the Seattle game, but we saw the difference that he made in this game against a team that has a weak secondary in the Bengals, which you could think like you would imagine that maybe
Difference that who
Malik
made
Neighbors, Malik Neighbors,
in not being there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like maybe that, but it's just that like because you're going, like like I'm kind of like bouncing back between like the defensive, like like how well the defense has played for this team throughout the Dable tenure, right? Which Shane's obviously going to take some credit for it, but some of like Dexter Lawrence is that guy right now. You could argue he's defensive player of the year at the moment, especially with Aiden Hutchinson out. But in terms of like the offense, like the only offensive kind of stud that you can attribute to like this regime so far is Malik Neighbors, and I mean he was number 6 pick for a reason, and that's kind of like granted he has done to date like what you expect a six overall number 6 overall pick to do, and you have to attribute that to Shane and Dable, but um when he's not there and the offense looks like the way it did, it kind of brings back everything like, oh, you know, a week and a half ago, you could have sworn like the Giants fans were throwing a parade for, for getting to 2-3. And now it's like, oh, Daniel Jones is the guy. And then just a few days later, it's like, okay, he's not the guy because he needs the guy to be kind of a guy.
Yeah. So, but a lot of the stuff you just talked about was personnel stuff. I'm not even talking about Joe Shane. I didn't mention Joe Shane at all. I'm purely talking about Brian Dable. You said you see some elements of a good coach.
Mhm.
Where?
I mean,
Because the only reason I say is because I look at it. I look at the Giants. This is his third year. I don't know what their identity is. I don't know what their identity is. I don't know what his imprint is on the team. Because, again, he's supposed to be an offensive guy. Like, look, you look at Robert Saleh. He got fired, last week. Say what you want about him as a coach. The Jets had an identity under Robert Saleh. They had a very clear identity, and his side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, was consistently competent.
mhm.
Like, even bad teams, I feel like you can kind of see where the coaching is being done. And what is Brian Dable doing? What is his imprint on this team? Where are the signs of him being a good coach? Are they him coaching is he coaching the defense? Is it
No, and it's I
because
said
from
like
the
now it just
offense
pops.
I'm not seeing anything.
It pops into my head now that like that you mentioned it. Like now we're going across like the defense kind of being the face of of the identity of this team. And but now we're going through another coordinator, and that's still being the case. So it's almost like it's just the players that just happen to be there. And like you said, I don't know. I guess I just maybe I just want to believe that he's a good coach based on, that first season and kind of how he overachieved and maybe some of the stuff that he was able to do last year when he was, when he was Tommy DeVito or whatever was the quarterback. And maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just um assuming or projecting some of good qualities based on kind of like a fluky season. But I mean, I see that he's a little bit flexible, kind of like he's kind of changed his demeanor. So I don't know. But like you said, I
Like I
can't
think
point to anything.
I can see some like what you're saying about him kind of being flexible. I feel like he has exhibited both good and bad leadership, just general leadership qualities, and he's kind of leveled out. He's taken out some of the bad and he's increased some of the good in terms of his leadership qualities. But as far as like tangible football stuff, I mean, listen, maybe I'm too stupid and I don't see it. Well, I don't know what I'm looking at on the field. But I feel like when Mike McDaniels arrived with the Dolphins, there's a very noticeable difference in the offense.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, the offense is a wreck now without Tua, but he had a very clear imprint on that offense, albeit whether you want to say it was for just a year or whatever. I just don't see, in terms of actual tangible football, some sort of football aspect. Like when I look at the Giants' offense, what is Dable bringing to that offense that has had some success? Because
Yeah, because
the funny thing is that from the the first year, I was shocked because when he first came in, when he first got hired as coach, my first expectation was, okay, I'm just trying to transfer what I saw in Buffalo to what I could kind of expect from New York. Now, obviously, two different teams, different personnel, etc. But I was like, if the way that the offense looks in Buffalo is what I could expect it to look like in New York with the Giants, there's going to be a lot on Daniel Jones. He's going to be throwing the ball around. And I was shocked at how much they ran the ball. So I was kind of like, oh, wow. Maybe this guy Dable, he's multi-talented. He doesn't just have good concepts that work when it comes to the pass game. Maybe he has good concepts that work when it comes to a running game. Almost like I feel like Sean McVay has had some of that when it's like depending on what kind of personnel he has available, whether it's due to injuries or trades or whatever the case may be, like he's coached a Rams team that had a prolific running game, and he's also coached a Rams team that has had a prolific passing game. And then when I look at Dable, like they came out, they were running the ball a lot more than I expected, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe he's kind of playing this smart, and like he knows what he sees from what Daniel Jones can and can't do, and he's kind of trying to take the ball out of his hands. But that very quickly kind of went away. Like they ran the ball to start the season, and then they have never really clicked offensively. I haven't really seen anything that I can like say, okay, this is Dable's influence on the offense and they do this well as a
Mhm.
result. I can't find anything. So it's just curious because it's just like I'm looking at it like the Giants. Obviously, we attach the wins and the losses to the head coach because that's the name of the game. That's the way that it goes. But whether they win or whether they lose, I just don't know what Dable's influence from a tangible football standpoint is on the team. And I'm not saying that to say he's a good coach or a bad coach. I'm just saying I don't see what does he hang his hat on? What would he tell me? Look at this game. I brought this to this team. I brought this run scheme. I brought this passing, attack. I don't see anything.
Yeah, I
So
mean, yeah, because it's like you said, like mentioning Robert Sala. like as bad as we see what the results were, the team was a defensive minded team. Granted, that's what the personnel called for based on like how the quarterback he was given. But it's very rare that you see the defensive team with an offensive minded head coach.
Yeah. The only time that I could
So
think that that has happened was uh was the 2000 Ravens with Brian Billick.
yeah.
Like that's always the first one that comes to mind.
And I mean that's purely because of like all the superstar. Nah, superstars are
But
a
we know
little
what
bit
that was
maybe
about.
overplayed.
Well, I think that that was Marvin Lewis and Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
I think Brian Billick, while he was the head coach, I feel like, and to his credit, I think he assembled a good staff, and he knew not to. I don't gotta fuck this up. Like, do your
Hmm.
thing, But that is always my go-to when I think of a team that their identity did not match the forte of the
Yeah.
head coach. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean,
No.
usually at minimum, I mean, I guess the only thing I could think about modern today would probably be the Browns, because Stefanski is supposed to be an offensive guy, and their offense is just offensive. So
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of factors in play right there because we saw what the offense kind of looked like when it wasn't Deshaun Watson.
well,
But
that's what I was gonna say. Though that's the one thing I can give him credit because he found a way to get something out of the offense paired with the defense. Like it wasn't the Jets. It wasn't just the team that was being carried by the defense and they couldn't get
Mhm.
anything out of the offense. Like he was able to kind of manufacture an offense and even manufacture a passing game once he got Flacco in there, and even with PJ Walker he was winning games against I think they beat. Did they win that game? Who was the? Because they had so many damn quarterbacks last year. I know PJ
Yeah, no,
Walker. I
I
think
feel
won
like
the
there was a
crazy
Green Bay
Colts game.
game.
They had a yeah. They beat the 49ers. I remember. But either way, I,
Mhm.
I at least saw something. Where
Yeah.
they had a little run where I could see, okay, maybe this guy's putting a little. He's taking chicken shit and making chicken salad. But
Hmm.
like I just don't. I don't. Whatever. I just don't see. I'm just curious as to how I'm supposed to look at Brian Dable right now. Even if they had won that game against Cincinnati on Sunday night, I just
Hmm.
feel like two and a half years in at this point, I just look at Brian Dable and I just don't know how to even evaluate the job he's done, and it just feels weird.
I mean, it's probably to his benefit, and and like all of this stuff with the Jets, kind of like with all the stuff, it kind of like takes the focus off to a certain degree. But
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, yeah, you're able to
All
fly
right.
a
So
little bit
speaking of the Jets, do you want to
under the
do
radar.
what do you want to do first? You want to do the game review or you want to do the trade?
We do the game.
All right, so you go ahead. What were your thoughts and feelings on the game? And now for
It was,
well, I'll let you say. I won't say anything.
I mean, it was disappointing that game because it felt like they were gonna win that game for most of the game. Like besides, when they had that late when the Bills had that late touchdown, it kind of felt like it was gonna go down the drain there, and then they come back with that Hail Mary, and then it
The
got
late
back to
touchdown
like
in the
what?
first half,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so yeah, when they made it 20, when they made it
20-10, I think.
yeah,
Right?
20-10. Yeah, so it felt kind of like that's when it was gonna like kind of go down the drain. But the offense was it was doing its thing for the most part. But we saw a lot of differences, but we saw a lot of the same. We saw like the way the play calls were different. Um, I think the motion it went from 32 to number like 6 like ranked just the amount of the percentage of motion on plays. The plays were mixed. I had, I had it was a kind of like
So A plus for
entertaining.
Downing.
Well, I mean, there was still more at hand there. But in terms of how he came out, how the energy was, and Brees Hall was, Brees Hall got it going. I don't know why, but he did look different. But there's still stuff that looked the same, like with the penalties. Granted, I don't know if you agree. I don't know if you watched the whole game, but this was the worst good game I have ever watched. Um, with the referees and how like everything was a penalty and how long the game was going. It just felt like the long there was at some point where it was in the fourth quarter and they were calling these penalties and I'm like, yo, it's about to be 12 o'clock. Like, what are we doing? And it was, it was for both sides, obviously, but it was just like there were just too many bad calls, and it wasn't like consistent. So it was like it was such a choppy game, even though the game itself should have been entertaining based on how tight it was for most of the game. But like I said, there was the penalties were an issue. Um, the drops, you know, the drops weren't as egregious. These kind of the drops happened more so because of like the plays that the Bills made, like in the end zone with Garrett Wilson. There was a play with Rucker where he kind of got hit up high, which I thought maybe was a penalty, but it dropped there. So it wasn't like the passes. Besides one of the Mike Williams drops, and then maybe you could argue he should have had that in the last one, but they weren't as egregious. They weren't like hitting hands and hitting the floor drive killers. So for the most part, I want to say that it was a positive. The offense went in a positive direction, but the defense went in a negative direction. Um, it seemed to be like a theme to me personally. Anytime there's like you can argue, okay, James Cook being out, that should be a positive. I would argue that that's a negative for based on how the Jets play and and how James Cook plays. I can argue the same. Like I know it sounds stupid, but I could argue the same thing even in the first game with Christian McCaffrey. It's the style of running back that style of running back where it's the north south running back. That's the running back that gives the Jets problems. They get no penetration up front. That needs to be on the table. The next move that they make has to be there in and switching up something on the edge, because the defensive tackles get no penetration whatsoever, and it allows those north-south runners to just keep going straight. They don't have to break to the left, they don't have to break to the right, which obviously makes it easier to tackle. Anytime there's a freight train coming down, that's when there's a problem because there's wide open holes, we're slim up front and we don't get any penetration and they could just go downhill on us. So that's a problem that they need to that's a problem that they need to address. And I know like it's not going to be with Hassan Reddick. It has to be another play. It has to be somebody else who they bring in because even they activated Lecky Fotu, the defensive tackle that they signed in the offseason, and it didn't make much of a difference. And like I said, anytime it's north south, that's the kind of running back that gives this team issues. And as long as that's the case, like Najee Harris, he'll probably do something similar. I know Najee Harris is kind of like he's not really a bruiser. It kind of like takes him a while to get going. But that's the type of running back that gives this defense problems, and I don't know how they're going to solve that unless they make a move. And like we were talking with accountability last week, and with the defense, you said with Quincy Williams, you could argue, man, like that that's the second running back that came out of nowhere, kind of that has pretty much won the game or lost the game for them. And that's on the defensive side. I think the offense did enough to to win this game. The defense, in my opinion, the defense didn't show up at critical times because this defense is really mercurial. You'll see them when the ball, they're passing and all that stuff, and there's certain plays, but sometimes when anytime it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 4, and they're giving up a run right up the middle, and we did a couple. There was a couple game plans the past 2 weeks that allowed the defense to show that they were a good defense. But anytime there's that type of running back and wide open space, it's gonna be troublesome for the Jets defense. So there's still stuff to correct. I don't think they've corrected everything yet, but I was more annoyed because they should have won that game, and that's another game that they should have won. I haven't even mentioned Greg Zerline, which that's another thing that they probably need to start looking at too. But what are you gonna do, man?
Speaking of the penalties, one thing that I thought that Rodgers did was that was a big mistake. For years, and I've always said this, you know, from my perspective, you can say this is unfair, you can say it's whatever, but I always feel like bad teams don't get calls. And I don't think that it is conspiratorial or anything like that, but I do think that for years, especially a recent history, if there's a 50-50 call, the Jets cannot count on getting the benefit of the doubt. If there's a 50-50 call, the Jets cannot assume that they're going to get the benefit of the doubt, particularly when it comes to calls like a roughing the passer, pass interference. Justin Jefferson is going to get the pass interference call before Mike Williams. Aaron Rodgers is going to get the roughing the passer call before Zach Wilson. So, for me, I understand he wants to be tough guy. He wants to be, that was a bad call. The roughing the passer, it shouldn't have been called. Aaron Rodgers should just shut the fuck up and take the calls that he gets, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where next week you're not getting that call and you're getting fucking thrown around by TJ Watt. Like, the Jets have been
Yeah,
wanting to get those calls for years. They've been wanting to have the quarterback in place that has the cachet to get them that critical call in that moment for years. So now
yeah,
that you
and
have that guy, for him to fucking talk his way out of getting the call, come on, bro. Just shut the fuck up. Don't try to be tough guy. Don't try to be I thought the calls were bad. Even the roughing the passer on me. I feel like you're taking it a little too far. Not that it's the end of the world or a big deal, but I just listened to him in the post game talking about how that shouldn't have been a roughing the passer. Like, bro, you need to take what you can get right now. You don't need to be
yeah, I don't
worrying
know.
about telling the refs that they shouldn't be calling roughing the passer when you're getting fucking driven into the ground.
Yeah, no, I feel like obviously everything that Rogers get says is going to be overanalyzed. But I just feel like that one, I think that was just the one that he could cop out and say like, "Oh, okay, I'm not complaining about the calls because I'm also saying that there was one that was on me because that was
No, that's
clearly a
exactly
foul."
what he was
Because
doing.
yeah, I
I
know,
know
but
what
I'm
he
saying
was
it's like
doing. I just don't think it's smart. Because next week, I don't want to hear if that motherfucker gets thrown to the ground. I don't want to hear where's the roughing the passer. That's what I'm saying. Because there have been many
yeah, I
times in the
mean
past where the Jets have gotten the short end of the stick on those calls. Zach Will, like, what was it? What was it? They had some record for 2 years. They
yeah,
never got a roughing the passer call. Like,
yeah,
bro, don't don't fucking hustle backwards.
yeah.
Like,
No, I know.
you
I
don't
just
gotta
like
be
I don't.
trying to, fake and feign and sell to try to get fake phantom calls. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying it's little stupid shit like that that's just mad unnecessary, especially when Like, I feel like Rodgers has done a really good job. I think the best thing that he's done, actually, since he's become a Jet, is there have been times where he has been very publicly acknowledging of trying to be in tune and understanding the Jets' history and fan base. And I think he's done a good job of that. But in that one instance where next week you could very easily say that the season is on the line. I mean, you could have said the season was on the line this week. But at 2-4, every little ball bounce, you need to go your way if you want this season to be what everybody hoped it could be. And I could just totally see in a dirty, in the mud type of game against the Steelers in fucking whatever the hell the name of that stadium, Acrisure, whatever the fuck it is. I could totally see a game like that in the heat of the moment towards the end of the game. You know, the pass rush is coming down on him and he gets slammed, and a call that he might have gotten to save a drive to win a game, now you don't get the whistle. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
unfortunately, that's what the league is. This is what it is. So I just feel like that nigga coming out with that, I thought it was just foolish, and it was just unnecessarily trying to talk about the refs and talk about the calls, but throwing in this little carrot like, well, I'm not complaining about the calls, and a little nod to look how tough I am. Nah, bro.
yeah, but
Take the
still, I
fucking
mean, it was
roughing the
just,
passer call when you can get it, because roughing the passer call could win you a fucking game.
yeah, like that. I, I'm just saying, like, he wanted to criticize because that I'm telling you, it was the worst good game I've ever watched. It was like every single time, like, it's not fun when every single time, like, I know it's been mentioned before. Every single time a play happens, you have to wait to celebrate, or
No, I
because
100% agree with you. I totally agree with what you're saying, and I get what you mean when you say that it was the worst good game. I get you, and I know what you mean about the frustration of a game not being able to get into a rhythm because there's always a flag, and you can't even really appreciate a good play because you're waiting for the penalty. I get you, and I hear all of that. My point is that he don't need to be playing those games. He
yeah,
don't need to be going out and publicly playing those games because he's on the field. We could talk about the refs, and we could talk about how all the this shit is like that. But when you are in a position to have influence over over what happens in the game, and not only that, but obviously we know him for years, notoriously, so much of this stuff gets kind of pseudo negotiated through post game press conferences where people are talking. We've heard for years coaches making lobbying to get calls, and then the next week certain things get called. The game gets called a little bit differently. Like he's a veteran. He should know that. We know
yeah,
that. Like I get what you're saying. I'm just saying for him, he should just be smarter than that, than to put himself in a position where he's going to sacrifice getting what could be a crucial, beneficial 15-yard whistle because he was talking shit and trying to be cool the week before.
yeah.
Like, whatever
No, I
point he
get
was
it.
trying to make was not worth the potential of you not getting a roughing the passer call because, oh, you don't need the roughing passer call? All right, you good. Like, why would you put yourself in that position? It's just
Yeah,
foolish.
yeah.
Like
I
I
mean,
agree with what you're saying. I get what you're saying. That
you
was
would,
just one thing that I noticed that I was just like, what are you doing? Because I've heard for years Jet fans complain about not getting those calls.
yeah. I mean,
Like for years. Like I
yeah,
still hear people talking about how that roughing the passer call against the Patriots when we had the pick six, and we would never get that call. For years I've been hearing this. So for this guy to put himself in that position, I just thought was foolish.
yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying, but it's like you would think that that wouldn't have an effect. Like if we're doing, if the refs are doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, it should have
No, come on,
absolutely no
bro.
effect.
Are we gonna
Yes,
live
I
in
agree.
fantasy land or are we
No, no,
living
no.
in reality? What are we talking
I
about fantasy
understand,
land?
but
We're not. This is not a
no,
fantasy football podcast. This is a real football podcast. Like
I'm just
yeah,
saying, like,
that's all fine and good, but we know that that's not the case. We know that that's not how it works. We know that these are human beings, and that's why I said that. That's why I prefaced my entire point by saying we understand that there's a human element to this, and that Patrick Mahomes will get a roughing the passer call that fucking Chris, whoever the
Chris
backup
Sims.
is, or fucking Spencer Rattler is not going to get that same call. You know what I'm saying? Like, we
Mhm.
understand that. That's a part of the game. You can say, oh, well, we like to think all we want. But if you want to pretend and put the blindfold on and pretend that this is all, robot referees, you could play that game. But I know what I see. I know what I've been watching for years. And I'm just saying, Aaron Rodgers should know better. He should know. He should
Yeah.
know. And I actually feel as though he even makes that comment in part because he knows. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I feel like he makes that comment like that in part because he knows that he's more likely to get something like that because, you know what I'm saying, because of his stature. He's not stupid. He knows that he is of the upper echelon in the league, that, there's going to be eyes on him getting thrown around like that.
Yeah.
But so Devontae Adams,
Uh, I mean, they had to do it. I mean, it was it was kind of anticlimactic because it got to the point where like you were just like, okay, when is it gonna happen
you
already?
knew it
When
was
is it gonna
happening. It was
happen?
just when, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, um, so I like, because I like took a nap, got up, and I looked at my phone, and I was like, oh, okay. It took me a second to read it, like, and like confirm and make sure that it was somebody who's credible who said it. And then I was like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, well, that makes sense. Like, it's probably one of the underrated needs, even though on paper you think, you look at the offense and you would think it's not. But it's two games that have been back-to-back games that a miscommunication has cost them. And it's clear that Mike Williams and Aaron Rodgers aren't on the same page.
Yeah, I
And
guess now we know why Xavier Gibson was the guy on the other side and not Mike Williams.
yeah,
Answers the
and
questions that we
they
were
were and they
asking.
were even yeah, and they were even saying that on the broadcast. Um, whenever Joe like when Joe Buck it was something Joe Buck mentioned or whatever that I guess he really likes Xavier Gibson and everything like that. So it kind of explains why he's in there. But Mike Williams, he had that drop that hit him right in the bread
Well, I've
basket.
been saying Mike Williams is a bum for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not doing like the only time I've ever seen Mike Williams highlights is at the sideline tight roping, and I don't think I've seen that yet. And like that's his skill. That's his skill set. So he's not a route guy that's gonna eat up the cornerback, anything like that. You got to throw the ball up to him, and like it just feels like he's at his best when he's catching the ball over his head, not when he's like trying to cut and
So is
get
that
some
why he's
yak.
on the floor every time? Because the motherfucker
He's
can't
on
keep his
it,
feet underneath him.
yo, dog. If you see his touchdowns and his catches, all of his highlights, he's falling out of bounds or he's falling out of the end zone. I can't remember a highlight that I saw of him catching the ball and just landing straight. Like it's crazy, but I don't know. Like that's another thing. It's like I don't know what it is that like every single game I see like there's issues with the turf. Like I think what they're doing is maybe using shorter studs on their cleats because of how bad I guess the turf is or whatever. But every like you see with Garrett Wilson too, man. He's always slipping and sliding all over the place. Um, Brees Hall is always sliding at, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that's a separate issue, but the issue is that Mike Williams is not doing what he came here to do.
So
So it
what
had to be
happened?
done,
Does
man.
he stay on the team with Adams here or no?
it seems like he's not going to be on the team. Like I get the report came out not too long after the trade that he's pretty much uh a target for a wide receiver needy team uh before November 5th, which is the trade deadline. So, you'd think that if he can go in and like I said, on paper that looks great. You can put all of these weapons out there and mix and match and all of this stuff, but in reality, like that's not how it works. And we saw actually, we saw less pass attempts, obviously more efficient because of the yardage compared to the amount of passing plays he had, but there's just so many plays that can go around. And like that what the report was that they're trying to go more to a more running, like a run heavy offense. And if they're trying to go to a more run heavy offense and they're adding wide receivers, those older guys aren't going to be too happy about it. You know what I'm saying? Like the younger guys you can get away with because they're still young, they're still on their rookie contracts, and you kind of still have the control over them. But these older
Well,
guys,
that's one
man,
thing though. I was thinking about like still on their rookie contracts, but Garrett Wilson at some point is gonna be thinking about how do I put myself in my best position for my next contract. No,
yeah. But I think that this helps him tremendously because apart from like the
the
all the
Devonte Adams
targets,
trade.
yeah, because apart from all the actual like the targets that he's been getting the last 2 weeks, we've seen how heavy his target share has been. He has all the focus on him all the time, and he's taking hits. Like he's going over the middle, and like there's a lot of clutter there for him. Because the safeties don't have to worry about anything else down the field or down the sidelines. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I feel like it's gonna, if anything, is gonna open up more space for him to get his run after the catch because that's really what he was good at the previous years. Catch that ball and make a play, make a guy miss and go downfield. I feel like every time he makes a catch now, because of all the pressure that's on him to be the number one, and Lazard is not scaring anybody, even though he is getting his catches or whatever. And we know Xavier Gibson isn't scaring anybody. So I feel like that's gonna it kind of closes in the middle. You have more attention in the middle, and anytime he catches the ball over the middle, he's getting hit. That's why we see him taking a dive every time. You know, he's a smaller guy. Every time he catches the ball, he's on the floor because he can't take those hits, and he's going over the middle a lot. And the middle is crowded just because of the lack of other weapons that are kind of drawing all the defensive secondary to the boundaries. So I think it'll help him, and I think his targets will be more efficient because he'll be able to take a 10 yard catch and turn it into 25, as opposed to taking a 12-yard pass and just falling forward and getting hit because there's nobody else that the defense is worried about.
Yeah, I think as far as the Devonte Adams trade, I feel like, and maybe you look at this differently, but I look at it like the best thing that comes from this, at least for me, right now, obviously, adding another talented wide receiver is one thing that's an obvious benefit. But I feel like I look at it like the addition of Devonte Adams, I think it's going to require some clever contractual maneuvering. So Joe Douglas is going to have to get to work, but
No,
I
they
think
already adjusted it.
for this year,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm talking about next year.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because the way I look at it as this trade, because like if you don't get Devonte Adams, I don't know that you have Rodgers next year.
Yeah.
I feel like the acquisition of Devonte Adams, I still don't know that it guarantees it, but I definitely think it increase if he's able to to maneuver the contract to figure out something that makes that works. I think that increases greatly the chances that you get another crack at this next year. Whereas if you don't get Devontae Adams, who knows where this like I don't know what the Devontae Adams acquisition is going to mean for the Jets this season. Could mean that it propels them to the playoffs and beyond. It could just mean that they kind of continue to try to figure it out and maybe finish the season strong, but give you something to look forward to next year. But I feel like that was my first thought was, okay, at least if they got Devontae Adams done, if they can figure out a way to, get him at a get the contract situation settled to have him in for next year as well. You get it because this whole Rodgers thing has always kind of been like from the beginning it's been like how long are we gonna get? Are we gonna get a year? Are we getting 2 years? And then every little word that he says, he said he hopes to do it for more than 1 year. Okay, so we can kind of assume we're getting 2 years. It's been like this whole kind of weird thing but you can never really trust it. But I feel like this, at least to me, really paints a picture where I could see, okay, this makes sense that they'll have at least one more chance to run it back. And listen, I'm sure there are probably Jets fans that don't want to run it back, that they just, they've seen enough. But I feel like, as all in as they are, you want to maximize and get as much out of this current, iteration of the Jets as you can. And I feel like that buys you at least another year, or at least to hope for another year getting Devontae, because just the way that Rodgers looked at the end of that game last night, like Devontae doesn't come and these can struggle. He continues to try to figure it out with Mike Williams for the rest of the year, and they're never able to get on the same page. I just don't know if Rodgers is even interested in 2025. Whereas now I feel like you breathe some new life into Rodgers. You're trying to piece it together, and I feel like for me that is the one thing that I feel like I take away. Like, okay, this is a good sign, at least that maybe you can try to run this back and get another year out of Rodgers. So
Yeah, and I mean, if it turns into a second round pick, then that's good. You know what I'm saying? But a third
yeah,
round
that
pick,
I like. Listen, at this point I agree. I'm like, if it's a second, cool. If it's a third, whatever. But like, it had to happen.
well, I mean, and honestly, I feel like they made that draft trade to get that extra third round pick pretty much for this exact situation. So um, it was almost like they knew that they were going to need that one in the back pocket, so they still have all their draft picks, all their own draft picks, like one in every round or whatever. So this was one that it was kind of like, all right, we're gonna have to trade at some point for Devontae Adams, so we're gonna need this pick anyway. So let's leave that there, and we'll break it out whenever we need it. And honestly, that's I feel like this was the time to use it. What you know what I'm saying? Like, what else there's not there's not many potentially um there's not many trades out there that would raise the ceiling potentially how this one could possibly do. And unless you're trading for a superstar who's young and still on a rookie contract, which isn't happening in this because there's a whole bunch of stuff that the Jets have to deal with in-house on their own. So, like you said, they have to figure something out for next year. Maybe they do maybe they do something, they figure that it's a package deal. They got one more year on, they add another year extension or something. And it's kind of like understood that this is the last dance next year. But they had to do it, man. They had to see they had to see what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like this had to be done only because like you're already all in, but you weren't all in with the guys that he needed. You were all in with the guys that he wanted, but that was kind of just like, the timing stuff and kind of making him a little bit more comfortable. But this is his guy. So if it's gonna work, it's gonna work with this guy, and we need to see it. So a third round pick to see if it works out with in this, this actually works out with his guys, um, it's worth it. So, but it wasn't that exciting because like I said, it was kind of just like, we could have used them. We could have used them last night.
No, yeah, and that was it's funny that you say that because I was thinking like I thought for sure that this trade was going to happen on last Wednesday because it just made too much sense. I was thinking you announce the Salah firing and then you chase it. That was the chaser. I thought we were going to chase it with the Devontae Adams news to kind of brighten things up,
Take the heat off.
not let the Salah stench cloud linger for too long. And as the days went by, because like they were they were talking about the Devontae Adams trade before Salah was fired. So like I was anticipating it even more so once Salah was fired, and then when it didn't happen, I was kind of like, okay, it's gonna happen. When's it gonna happen? And like it kind of just like this would have been such a bigger deal had it not been done today. Having had them
2-4.
play a standalone game for the division last night, it really kind of took some of the steam out of it. But whatever, it is what it is. You would have liked to have had him to hopefully get over that hump yesterday. And then, I mean, could you imagine had they made that trade last Wednesday and he plays on Monday night and they're able to win that game, how much different everything would be?
Yeah. And they, like that catch that if that throw goes to instead of Garrett Wilson where he drops it after the hit and it goes to Devontae Adams instead, he catches that. And the game is totally different. You know what I'm saying?
Speaking of that, I think I have a new favorite player.
Don't please don't tell me, because that smile on your face makes me think of one player, and I really hope it's not him. But just to finish off that point, like I think they win that game, and obviously if if Zerline remembers who he used to be instead of whatever this thing is, um, we're having a completely different conversation overall. If Legatron was actually Legatron, but I digress. But the player that I think that you're talking about, was he on the Bills?
Yes.
Was it Mac Hollins?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
Mac Hollins, no. No, I
Okay,
just
that's
said
what I
when
was
you
worried
said
about.
that when you said the Garrett Wilson play, where he took that hit, the guy he took that hit from.
Mm.
He's my
Terrell
guy. Huh?
Bernard,
I think
Taron
Bernard had
Johnson.
front coverage, and I think it was Rap. Believe it
Oh,
was Rap with the hit. And
so Rap is your guy?
he's not my new favorite player, but he's rocking the Guardian cap, bro. I like that shit, man. I like that shit. And I'm not, maybe I'm thinking too much about it, but yo, that motherfucker was flying around everywhere. And he was laying hits like he was wearing extra protection on his head.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Like that's why they say the helmet. If you want to eliminate helmet to helmet hits,
You
you
take
should
the
actually
helmets
take
off.
away the helmet.
We all know that, yeah, but they're not doing that. And I feel like he's the smart one. Like, if y'all motherfuckers are not, you're not going to wear these because they're not cool. I'm gonna wear it because I could fucking throw my head around and use this shit as a
That's like
weapon.
that's like the shit with the in the city where everybody puts on their bumpers. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't care. They hitting the reverse faster than they got.
Yes,
The juke in front back and forth because that shit is not messing up my bumper. And that has I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I got this rubber shit. I'm bouncing off like a Super Bowl.
I'm telling you, I think there was something to it. If you watch the way that motherfucker was, because like it was funny because I was watching the game and I was like, damn, this motherfucker's flying around. Who is this?
Yeah.
And then
I
they
mean, I
zoom in
wanted him
on
two
him.
years ago when he was.
They zoom in on him, and I see he's rocking the. If they zoom in on him, I'm like, oh shit, is he wearing a Guardian cap? And that was I think I saw somebody wear it in game once before. I don't remember who it
No,
was.
the Browns, Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, he was looking crazy on Sunday. he had the Guardian cap, which is like with the Browns helmet, it's not as noticeable, obviously, until you see the size of his head. But then he had his both hands wrapped in like
Oh,
this
he had the
like it
club
looked,
joints too. Oh, this nigga was
you
going
know,
crazy.
but it wasn't like the clubs. They were like it almost looked like action figure hands, like they were like stuck like this,
Like those
but they
Hulk
were like
hands.
wrapped. Yeah, they were like wrapped in black. Yeah, my man was looking crazy. He looked like he was like in armor.
Yeah, nah, I don't know, man. I just felt like I was watching this dude. He was playing with reckless abandon, and then I was not surprised when I noticed that he was wearing the Guardian
Yeah.
cap because particularly on that hit with Garrett Wilson, like he laid that hit, he fell back after laying the hit, and his like the back of his head hit the fucking turf, and he bounced up like nothing. Like he just looked like he was flying around with a
She was
confidence.
like a fucking like that the Robin Williams movie, the one with the shit
Oh,
that they put on the shoes and no. The one that they could bounce flubber.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, that's how he was flying around. I was like, yo, there might be a little something. People might be missing out if they don't want to put on these
Hmm.
Guardian caps because he was. I don't know, man. I was like, yo, because I was the whole time I've been thinking, who am I gonna see wearing it? I know Jonathan Taylor wore it in the preseason, but I don't think he's wearing it in regular season. And
No.
other than that, I haven't really noticed anybody else wearing it. And when I seen that he was rocking that shit and he was playing well, I was like, yo, there might be something
I
to
don't know
like.
why every offensive lineman doesn't wear it.
That was the other thing I was thinking. I don't think I've seen any offensive lineman wearing it. And
It
I'm
doesn't
like,
make it
these
doesn't make
goofy
sense.
motherfuckers, what do they care?
Yeah, like they got the knee, they have their knees wrapped, arms, elbows. You have Tyron Smith looking crazy out there where like he looks like Forrest Gump with all those braces on. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to that level, man, throw that on.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I respect it. I respect that he was out there with the extra padding and he was throwing himself around. I was like, yo, he might be on to something, man. You got these, like, I feel like particularly guys in the secondary who are flying around trying to get to spots and make hits and make plays. Like, there might be something to it. That's all I'm saying. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know anything. I haven't talked to anybody, but I think there might be something to this
I know what I
Guardian
saw.
cap because he was flying around. And once I noticed that goofy ass fucking helmet, I was like, damn, that shit is hard. But like, I didn't know like the regular view. I didn't notice it. It wasn't until they zoomed in on him. Like, I think they did a pretty good job with the covers. Like, it matches pretty well. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's not like a huge eyesore on the screen. At least for me, it wasn't. But
Yeah, I mean, I guess it probably depends on like the design and shit. Like some you might be able to get away. He's like, for example, with the like I said with JOK, the Browns helmet is plain. You know what I'm saying? You just throw that orange on or whatever. But you start to think about maybe like the Atlanta Falcons or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Where they got the matte black and they got the red
yeah,
falcon and all that shit. Like that might look a little bit different. So because the helmets, the Bills helmets are white, so it's not like like the color kind of like blends in, and
yeah.
obviously the thing on the side is a little bit different. But I'm saying I feel like that's probably the reason that it's holding a lot of people back from using them.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. I just respect that he was out there with that shit, man. I respected that. So I was like, yo, this motherfucker's out there throwing his head into everybody with that extra Guardian cap. But anyway, besides the Jets, I mean, is there anything else that you found compelling? Of the one thing that I was like that I was thinking about was I don't think I've ever covered by as much. Like
Mm.
my 3 and 2 point picks they covered and it was never a sweat, not even close. Like
With the Cleveland.
I had a 38 point cover and a 24 point cover.
Yeah.
Like the Lions destroyed the Cowboys. That was never I never even had to think about my 3 point pick. Like it was over from the
Mm.
get go. And the only thing that the Tampa gave me a little scare in the first half, that second quarter when
Yeah,
the
man, that
Saints
looked like
go
a toss up,
crazy and they
man.
dropped 27, and Baker was trying to bake. But that second half, they ran away with it, and it was never close. I was like, damn, I don't think I've ever had a complete no sweat picks like
Hmm.
that. Like, I feel like even when you win them, there's always some air of mystery and fear. But those, like, that was the best in
Yeah,
terms of just like chilling. The game, the shit is not in doubt. I'm not worried about no back door. I'm like, this shit is over. Put it in the books.
yeah. And I'm so mad because like like I said, my analysis on the Jaguars and
Oh yeah, you had
Bears,
a great
it
read
was
on that
so
game.
it was so on point. But then that little thing of them not me not realizing that it was in London, and it completely throwing it like, and it just completely changed my perspective of it because of not necessarily because of the team, more so because of like my opinion of Matt Eberflus,
Yeah.
and it didn't get close enough for him to even matter. You know what I'm saying? So
Well,
that
that was
one,
the
and
thing. I think
also
that I'm still very surprised by that. Like, I don't know
Doug
what.
Peterson's gonna get fired when he comes back.
I mean, I think that it's a perfect setup for him to get fired. Drake May making his second start. They go out there. They have an extra week in London. You lose that game. That's the perfect game to get fired by.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that's the other game that I had too. Houston and New England because of Drake May. And honestly, Drake May looked better than I thought he would, but it's still
Well,
I
you didn't
still would
know,
have
but you didn't
covered.
take that game.
No, 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 no. But it was on my list.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I was
just
gonna
I
take the
didn't.
Patriots in that game, but
No, yeah, that was just it. Just seemed like with Drake May and kind of like the defense that with the Texans, I feel
But
like
that's the thing is
that
that
would have been
Drake
kind of a
May
lot.
put points on the board. I mean, he wasn't the reason they didn't cover. They didn't cover because they couldn't stop the Texans at
Oh
home.
yeah, yeah.
I
I know.
expected more from the
I'm playing the
defense.
outcome. That's what I'm saying.
No, yeah, yeah, for sure. But I'm just like, um, I was considering taking the Patriots in that game, not because I had a ton of faith in Drake May, just because it was a big spread, more than a touchdown, and CJ Stroud has not been elite on the road. His home road splits are kind of startling. And they don't have Nico Collins. He's a different type of dude when they don't have Nico Collins. So I just thought that the Patriots defense had a good opportunity to keep the game within one possession, one score. But the defense did not get the job done for New England. I don't know what to make of. I don't know what to make of New England. The Jags,
Hmm.
man. Oh my God. Like, I mean, New England, Jacksonville. You don't have to give away any leans or anything like that. But I was looking at that game. I was like, do I want to take? I never want to try to catch the end of the. Like if I feel like
Yeah,
if I miss out on a spot, I don't want to try to catch you. The biggest mistake you can make is trying
you'd
to
rather
catch
be
it a
too
week
early than
later.
too late. Yeah,
Yeah. So like I don't want to go. I don't want to go Patriots now and fade the Jags, and then this be the day that they decide to have the bounce back. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I thought that the Jags are the London team. Like if they're gonna do it, if they're gonna give their best showing, it was gonna be in that spot with their experience in London, them being the London team, facing off against a rookie quarterback, a coach who I don't think he's very good, but at minimum he's never been to London. Even if you whatever you think of him, it's a new experience for
yeah,
him. I thought that's the spot for Jacksonville, and for them to be that flat. And then you got
yeah, man.
Cisco talking about dudes are quitting, me included. Like, nigga, you telling us you quit? Like,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
shit
yeah.
was
Like,
crazy. I was like, he's
yeah,
like,
for
yeah,
real.
you got guys out there. The least you could do is give effort, and I include myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo,
But
he's probably right.
it's crazy. That might be one of the most egregious quotes, and it's like whatever. Like it didn't even happen. Like, can you imagine somebody on the Giants or Jets said something like that?
Oh yeah, it'd be incredible. I don't.
Yeah,
It'd
but
be interesting. I got to try to see if we got to talk. I want to talk to Word Life and see if he can get me a website or a podcast, like a real deep dive Jaguars fan show to see what the Jaguars fan is talking about right now, because
yeah.
the Jaguars fan does not have national representation, and they cannot react well to that game itself, and the quotes that came out of the game are even more troubling.
Yeah, but it's crazy because like I feel like down south, like Miami's not a down south team. Miami's like because Miami's so
They're a
strange because
South Beach team.
Miami's yeah, because Miami's like if like New York City was in the South. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously the coverage isn't as harsh as it is up here, but I'm saying like the Jaguars are SEC country. They they're very much a down south team.
Yeah.
And judging by like how like I hear how like college teams are covered, you either have a lot of homerism or like people are done with it. There's like very little nuance. So I don't know if they're like still protecting it, especially with, you know, um, Trevor Lawrence being, down south, Clemson, Georgia person. You know what I'm saying? Like, or and maybe blaming Doug Peterson and like because he's the big city guy or whatever, or people are out on Trevor Lawrence because I would be very worried about Trevor Lawrence if I was a Jaguars fan.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because maybe I don't know. I feel like I'm last to the party, but I feel like I'm also the party also hasn't really started. The it's over for Trevor Lawrence party. I feel like people have been saying it, but they haven't said it. You know what I'm saying? They haven't
Yeah,
confirmed it. There's been a lot
they've
of, oh, I'm
asked,
worried about
they've
Trevor
asked,
Lawrence. I don't
they've
know.
asked the question, but they haven't, laid down the law.
And I think
Lawrence.
you were the first person, at least that I know, to very seriously see things in Trevor Lawrence that you were expressing that were, because I feel like when you're dealing with a young quarterback who is having some success and kind of figuring himself out, figuring out how to play the position, you tend to give him a little bit of leash for every little success that they have. So he was having little successes, so then the little fuck ups we overlook them, or the general people overlook them. But I feel like you there was a point, I think it was last year, there was a point where you were kind of like, I don't know about Trevor Lawrence. I'm like, you were serious about it, not like
Hmm.
serious, like where I
Yeah.
could tell you were saying something. I knew you were saying something.
Hmm.
You weren't making a big deal, but I was listening to you, and you were saying something, and I was like, I was thinking to myself, I don't really agree, but I did make a mental note of it. I was like, I don't see what
Hmm.
you're seeing, but I respect your perspective, so I'm making a mental note, and I'm like, I don't see it, but now I'm gonna give it a closer look, because you were dropping some knowledge that I was trying to pick up on, and now I feel like that's why I say I feel like I'm the last of the party, because I've kind of been like, okay, maybe I was like, maybe this is gonna be a bounce back year for him. He was dealing with the injuries last year. He was, the ankle, the this, the that. I was like, let's see what he has this year. And now I think I'm officially at the place where I'm like, it's over. Like,
Yeah. It's close, man. But the thing is, it's not over because he also has one of those contracts that he just signed, and I don't even think that the big money's kicked in yet. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, when I say it's over, I don't mean his career as far as him being on the field playing football. I mean it's over in terms of him being a top upper echelon, even
No, no,
cracking the
I
top
didn't.
15, top 10 quarter. Like,
Yeah, I didn't mean it in that extreme either. I just meant like in terms of like, maybe the Jaguars, see how the Jaguars are trending currently. I think they'd be getting the number one pick overall now. And it's like, like if not for that contract, you can ask the question like, should they, start over with a rookie quarterback? But that's not possible right now.
yeah, but I also feel that him being good is not possible either.
Yeah.
like it's very strangely similar in very very different ways to Deshaun Watson. I feel like for a while people were kind of like, oh well, he hasn't played, he was, he's rusty, he came in kind of halfway through, give him a full off season. Stefanski, coach of the year. He'll return. We've been waiting. We're waiting for Deshaun Watson to get back. At first, it was we were waiting for him to get back to where he was. Then it was like, okay, maybe he's not going to get back to where he was. Well, let's wait for him to show us something. Now I think it's like, no, this is it. Like there's nothing to be shown. There's nothing else coming. There's no more. There's no more familiarity with the offense. There's no, like none of that is happening.
Yeah.
It's a wrap. And that I feel like I'm similarly in the same place with Trevor Lawrence, where I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna keep on playing this. I'm waiting to see. I'm calling the fight. I'm calling the fight on Deshaun. I'm calling the fight on Trevor. At least for me, like I feel like the last ditch hope was if against a good Bears defense in his hometown of London, England, I was like, if he can put together, like, not even necessarily win the game, but just show something, show
Signs.
show some fight, show some signs of like, even if not necessarily mastering the position, but just like I'm not even seeing fight from him. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not
Yeah.
even looking at a guy who even looks like he's like, damn, I know better than that. You're not
Yeah.
getting from him like, and I don't even want to say accountability because I'm sure he's accountable in the locker room or something like that. But you could just see it. You could see when a guy is struggling. He's like not to compare him to Josh Allen, but like when you see Josh Allen fucking up, he'll throw away a whole game fucking up, looking terrible.
Mhm.
But when I watch him, I just feel like he knows he fucked it up and he believes and knows he can do better next time. Whether or not he's going to
Yeah.
fuck it up next time again, that's anybody's
He has like
guess.
a gold. He has a goldfish. He has the
Yeah, and you
the.
could tell he just like I feel like Trevor Lawrence has reached a point where he has no confidence either. Like there can be
Yeah.
like I think Josh Allen maybe takes it too far to the point where he has such confidence that he continuously tries to make throws that he has no business trying to make, despite how great he can be. Where I feel like Trevor Lawrence is at a place where I don't think he just looks lost. He looks lost. He looks like he doesn't have confidence. He looks like when he
Disengaged,
fucks
man.
up, he doesn't even know where the fuck up came from. Like he doesn't even know. Like oh,
Yeah.
like he's looking at the pad. He looks confused. I'm like, oh man, like
Yeah.
he's
And
supposed to be getting better and he's not.
yeah, no, and the reason, like some of the reason that I was out on, or like, like I said, keeping my eye on him is because of kind of like what you said, where like he kind of looks like sometimes disinterested and sometimes like, oh, whatever. Like, yeah, I fucked up. I'll get better. But you don't see him like, with that emotion or anything like that. And I mean, I don't see that much Jaguars football where like I can get in tune really with like his ups and downs. But like, remember like that stuff that came out before the draft where it was like, oh, that maybe the football wasn't the most important thing in the world to him. And it's just like that kind of like, is there a reason? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of like what got it clicking in that direction where it's like it's not so much that he's not talented or anything like that. It's like does it matter that much? Like he's accomplished. He's a number one overall pick, Heisman Trophy, winning a national championship, and it's almost like it is like did he value that status, like the college football status? There's plenty of players like that that like that their legacy is in college football, college basketball, and that kind of like you know like that's what's important. They'll still always hold that as who they are, as opposed to like what their careers going forward. And it just seemed like maybe it's the spot too. Maybe being in like Jacksonville Jaguars, perennial loser, the thing with Urban Meyer and just like a lot of kind of like a lot of crap that he's had to deal with. Maybe he's just like, uh, maybe he had plans to like not return until they gave him that crazy contract. It's like we don't know what goes on behind the scenes there, but it's just like seems like, all right, I'm going to work.
Yeah. Strangely enough, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, both Clemson guys. Take that for what
Yep.
you will.
Yep.
So, and last but not least, what was the Vegas Saints slick? I forget. What was that again?
It was the Packers over the Cardinals. So that's still undefeated on that.
Got it.
Yeah. Packers -5 versus the Cardinals.
Yeah, Cardinals, man.
They had a
I'm glad
spark
I
when
didn't
they
take him.
started.
I'm glad I didn't take him, but I was surprised at that result. I don't know how much Marvin Harrison going out early in the game impacted it, but that either way, that was not a good performance. And
Yeah.
now, next Monday night, it's like it's like my baby against my enemy. My
Hmm.
baby, the Cardinals, my man Johnny G, who I'm holding out hope for, going against the guy who I think is way overhyped and way overvalued in Harbaugh and the Chargers. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm too emotional with it. I don't know if I can even touch that game because like everything
Yeah,
in me
still.
wants to take the Cardinals, but I'm like, just when you think the Cardinals are figuring it out, they
Yeah.
throw a dud. Like, oh man, but I don't know. Like their bounce backs are so unexpected,
Yeah,
and then the
that's the
duds
thing
are
with
so
them. They'll bounce.
unexpected.
Exactly. Like their bounce backs are so you can't predict it. It's like because this should have been a bounce back, right?
Yes, exactly.
Or you know what I'm saying? Like they got the game versus the
The Niners.
49ers, and it's like, they got they kind of like escaped with the win, and it's like, oh, there's a team that's kind of reeling, and it's like, oh, okay, we got a chance to build some momentum. And anytime there's like a sliver of momentum, it's like, boom, no. And then it's like you're just waiting to see when they get it back, but it's never when you think. It's the week after.
Yeah, I feel like they're the one team that you'd rather be too late than be too early. Because if
Hmm.
you're too late with them, then you're on time because they're always too late
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm.
And I think obviously the game next week, the marquee game that has been the dancing between who's gonna be the favorite, Chiefs Niners Super Bowl rematch. And I originally went into that game thinking I got to go Niners all the way, 100%. But now I don't know, man. Like I don't like the line movement there is throwing me off because it was like Niners were favored, then Chiefs were favored, then Niners were favored, and who the fuck cares? It's just dancing around between 1 point, which
Yeah.
I have decided. Like I said last week, all the spreads I was looking at just to get ready for this week. I mean, obviously several of them I'm sure will move, so I'll have to change what I'm looking at. But unless there's really nothing else I like, I'm not taking points anymore if it's not at least 3. Because
Yeah.
I'm tired of sitting there with 2.5 in the pocket, knowing that it does nothing for me, knowing that I
Hmm.
need the win. Like that shit, it frustrates me, man.
Yeah.
Like and also a stat that I saw because I looked into it because I was like, yo, is it even worth it to take these fucking 2.5 point dogs when the game always fucking seems to land on 3 and you fucking lose by the hook and it does nothing for you? I was like, how
Hmm.
often does a 2.5 point dog cover but not cover and lose? Do you
Yeah.
want to know what the numbers are? You want to know what I
Oh,
came
what
what
is
I
it?
what I dug up? So I found an article, but it was based off of data between, I think it was, I forget how many years back it goes, but it was an article from 2016, and it was going back, dogs of 2.5 points the last 185 games. So the last 185 times there was a dog of 2.5 points. They cover at a rate of 104. They're 104 and 81,
Mhm.
and they win outright 96 and 89. So there's only
So it's
been
almost like,
8 times out of 185 games that a 2.5 point dog covered and lost.
mhm, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. And they even did the math that if you did a unit on the 2.5 point, if you played the 2.5, your return on investment would be 12.2%. You'd be up
Mhm,
22.66 units. If you just did it the money line every time, you would have lost the additional 8, but
mhm,
the 8 times that they lost.
yeah.
But the bump you would have gotten in value from the ROI and the units, you would be up 29.77 units and up
Mhm,
16.1% in ROI.
yeah.
Now, I say that this is an article from 2016 just because there might be some discrepancy in that, because I think over the last 10 years, since
Lines have
they've
gotten
moved
tighter,
back
man.
the extra point and there's more 2 point conversions, I don't have the data. I was still looking for it, but I would imagine that you have more games land within 3. It probably happens more
Mhm.
often now because of the adjustment to the point after.
Yeah,
But
because even
I don't think it's going
last
to be
night
that. Say again.
with
Yeah,
the
well,
Bill, like the Bills game, with the Jets game, that could have easily turned out to be a game altering missed extra point.
yeah, no, for sure. So like it does add some variance, but I still don't think that it's enough that I'm gonna be taking. Like, again, if there's nothing else that I like, I'll take 2.5 if I think that the team has a good chance to win outright. But like, I'm gonna be, from a betting perspective, much more likely to just go money line, because I hate having 2.5 points in the pot. Because especially when you're losing, like,
Yeah,
if I have 2.5 points and the team goes up, that's different, because that
you
can
got a
play out
cushion.
a lot better for you. But when you're chasing, when you have a dog and you have 2.5 and you're looking for a back door, there is no back door. Like, you
Yeah.
need at least 3 for the back door, because
Mhm.
because what was the game that I was? Oh, it was the fucking. You got screwed with the Giants because they had the backdoor opportunity. They were down 10, but instead they try to kick the field goal. They don't even make the field goal. But even had they made the field goal, it would have screwed you having the 3.5, because they weren't going to go for the touchdown, leaving
Yeah.
you with the hook to win. So, like, I feel like even in those situations, if you have a team, if you have a dog, I mean, I'll still take 3.5, because that's such a huge number that so often lands
Mhm.
on 3. But even when you have the 3.5, you can end up getting screwed, because the way they play the math, it's like, okay, we're just gonna go for the field goal now, and we'll save the touchdown for the last drive, and then
Yeah,
you
and
don't
it's
get the
funny
three and a half cover.
how confused the commentators were over that decision, like that decision, because I'm surprised it's not like it's they don't do it more often and earlier, like just to kind of get a little bit more time. Like if you're down 10, it's a lot easier. Like obviously we saw an example with Aaron Rodgers throwing that Hail Mary. It's a lot easier to have something crazy happen when you throw it down and have a Hail Mary. A lot easier for that to happen than for you to kick for you to finish that touchdown drive, actually get the touchdown, and then get the ball back, and then try to kick a long field goal. Like sometimes it's a rushed field goal where because if you don't have timeouts left and
Yeah,
you're running out
exactly.
there, you know what I'm saying? So I don't understand why they were so confused about it because I thought it was the right decision. I was pissed off about it,
Yeah.
obviously, but hey, what are you gonna
Because
do?
that was the thing. I was watching that game, and I had bet the Giants plus the 3.5, and I was like, "Oh man, come on,
Yeah,
leave this
yeah,
down
yeah.
10. They get this touchdown." And once I saw they were going for the field goal, I was like, "It makes sense."
It's
But
done.
that's another reason why, like, you be thinking you have the back door in the pocket, and it's useless. But to me, it's exponentially more useless at 2.5. Like 2.5s,
Yeah,
1.5s. I'm not even gonna think about those anymore. To me, those are gonna be either I'm picking a winner. I'm not even considering the like hoping for the cover because for
yeah,
that low of a percentage, you need the win. Like that's the only way
yeah,
you can really expect to cover those small numbers is to get the win. If you're trying to play this, I think they can keep it close game with 2.5. You're dead.
yeah.
So
Does you no good.
I might be out of that game now that I've looked at how deep the stats are that you get fucking 8 out of 186. It's like there's no point. Like there's no point in me sitting there hoping for it. And it's like there'll be two and like there are so many 2.5s like in the last couple of weeks that I'm like, oh, that team shouldn't be a
Yeah,
dog. And I'm like, I like the 2.5. I love the 2.5. The Jets got 2.5 2 weeks in a row, and both times I liked it. But it's like the 2.5 does you no good. They got to win. Like 2.5 is
yeah,
not helpful at all.
yeah.
But anyhow, we got we got the Yankees are live right now. I'm not watching it because I've got
Up three.
I have the Minnesota Wild and the St. Louis Blues on my TV right now. Of course,
Duh.
duh, and fucking the Blues are just choking it away here. But what can we do?
When's the Liberty Lynx game?
Tomorrow night. Oh my God!
Oh,
Don't even remind me of that. That
that was slit. That
did
got
you
that got
watch the end of that game? That Thursday
the
game,
game two,
game one.
game one. Yeah, because like how you said it, I had I was able to put a double screen like the split screen, so I put it on just because you had mentioned it or whatever, and I was like, oh. Then I saw that last. I thought they were gonna pull it out in the last second with
The
because
free
who's the one
throws
who? No, 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 no. It was no, was it
in the
after the free
overtime or at the
throws?
end of the fourth
Yeah,
quarter.
no, in the overtime, in the overtime.
See, that was the thing. The way that fourth quarter ended, and I don't
Once
know, like
again,
you said, you were watching it on two screens, so I'm assuming you didn't hear the audio.
no.
The only reason I say that is because I didn't have the audio either. I was watching the Monday night football game, and I was pairing it with the. But then once I saw them, I was looking at the game, and I was just like, they don't look right. So I switched the
Hmm.
audio, and I feel like once I switched the audio and I could just get this more of a sense of the vibe of the game, that collapse was epic. Like it was like a movie the way that they broke down. Like I mean, complete breakdowns, like the choke of the year. And once that when Breonna Stewart gets fouled, which was a lucky foul, gets fouled down one with like point 0.5 seconds left. I was like, there's no chance she's going to make both of these free throws. She'll be lucky to
Hmm.
make one. And if she makes one, they have no shot in overtime. You could just feel it. Like, you could just feel the way that fourth quarter crescendoed to an end and they blow 15 points in 5 minutes at home. You just, like, when the overtime started, it was worth watching, but at no point did I think they were going to win in the overtime.
It was like the next game that went into overtime.
The Knicks game?
Uh, yeah, like I guess it was with the Pacers. Was it
Oh,
and it
when
just
this guy Neesmith hit that three, or not?
yeah,
Was it
yeah,
Nemhard? I think was the one that hit
Nemhard,
that three.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, Nemhard. It just
very
like you
similar
could,
to that, where it was
yeah,
just
you could
like,
just tell like
yeah. But at least the Knicks there was a little bit of a collapse there, but that was crazy collapse to Liberty. They
Mm.
choked so bad. I mean, missing layups, missing free throws, fouling on the 3 point. I mean, every which way they could have done something wrong, they did it wrong. And I was like,
Mm.
yo, I don't know, man. I don't. They won this. They won game two, but they didn't look particularly impressive. And I'm worried about tomorrow night. If they lose tomorrow night, I don't think it's getting. I don't think it's coming back to the Barclays. If
Yeah,
they lose
because
tomorrow
it's
night,
2-1.
yeah. If they lose tomorrow night, they're on go home alert on Friday. Like if they
Mm.
can't pull, because it just feels like if the Lynx are able to get them tomorrow night, and they know they can close it out at home on Friday, I just don't. I don't know if the. I don't know if the Liberty have it in them.
Mm.
Especially, and I hate to do this, but this goes back as somebody who's been following the league for a while now, and has been invested since last year. I started to really question this Liberty team's mental toughness after the finals last year. And I know
Mm.
it's a little thing and it's not a big deal to a lot of people, but it was a big deal to me. When they lost to the Las Vegas Aces last year in the finals, they didn't talk to the media after the game. They didn't allow me. I think they didn't allow media into the locker room, and they didn't do any post-game press conferences. They
Mm.
just went home, and I thought that was real, real weak. Like it's not even like they were the favorites. They were supposed to lose to the Aces last year. The Aces were the better team. The Aces were the reigning champs. Like I didn't expect them to win against the Aces last year, and for them to just kind of like shell up and like we can't face the media. I was like, what is this? Like,
Yeah.
y'all lost. It's not that big of a deal. I wanted them to win. I was rooting for them, but I was like, what's the big deal? Y'all lost. Like, y'all can't stomach a loss like that. Like, so I was always kind of questioning: is this like a front running type team coming into this year? They had a dominant regular season, but they couldn't beat the Minnesota Lynx during the regular season. They only beat them once out of four times, and they lost to them in the Commissioner's Cup game in New York, which was very troubling for me because I was
You
like,
think that's in their
yo,
head?
yeah, and I was like, yo, this is a game at home, and I know people made fun of the in-season tournament in the NBA, but in the first of all, the WNBA, the in-season tournament is much more well established because they've been doing it since way longer before the NBA started doing it, and also that shit is real money to them. Like that's real money on the
Yeah.
line. Like they tried to increase the payments for the in-season tournament in the NBA just to kind of make an incentive for the teams, but the players are making money on their regular salary, so they had to really try to add some juice. But for the fucking WNBA players, they're not getting paid like that. The money that they
Yeah.
make for the Commissioner's Cups, that's serious money. That's serious competition. And the fact that in that spot at home they couldn't beat the Lynx, I was like, oof, that's troubling.
Yeah.
So like when it was gonna be either the Lynx or the Connecticut Sun that they were gonna be playing in the finals, I was like, yo, I want to see them play the Lynx just because that's a team haven't been able to beat. They couldn't beat them in the Commissioner's Cup final, and they historically have been beaten up on the Sun the last couple of years. So I was like, let's see some competition, and
Mm.
I don't know. I think I'm getting what I bargained for here. I guess. I mean, I'm rooting for the Liberty to win, but I have a lot of respect for the Lynx, man. They're a fucking tough team, and like, you know, the Liberty you can't blow a 15-point lead in 5 minutes at home and it not be a collapse. But
Yeah.
I do give credit to the Minnesota Lynx because that's the
Especially
type
with
of team they are. They're fucking feisty and they're physical. They're beating them up, and the
and
Liberty just
especially with
folded, man.
that, because I mean, I don't watch that much. Don't watch much at WNBA, but just 15 points in that span with the pace that they play normally is might as well be 30 in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hell yeah.
because it just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like the points don't come as easily and as quickly. You know what I'm saying? So that's
Hell
just
yeah,
that
and
adds
not
to
only
how.
that, they had just come off of like the Liberty had an extra day of rest because they closed out the Aces in Game 4. The Lynx and the Sun went to a Game 5. They only had 1 day of rest. They traveled from Minnesota and were playing you at home. So you had the rest advantage. You had the motivation advantage because this was a team. This is a revenge game. This is a team that beat you on your home floor, or not on your home floor technically because it was in the Islanders arena for some reason. I don't even remember why they had the Commissioner's Cup final in that building, but that was kind of weird. But like you're right, like it's even more difficult to overcome. And it wasn't even like the Lynx were hitting a ton of threes. They were just getting to the basket, like, and they were causing turnovers. Like they're a fucking tough ass team, man. But that's why I say that if the Liberty don't have it in them to win this game 3, I think it's gonna be facing a Minnesota team like that with the blood in the water that they could close you out and they don't got to go back to Barclays for a game 5. I mean, part of me wants to see that because I want to see what the Liberty look like down 2-1, backs against the wall on the road. Can they pull it out and force a game 5 back in the Barclays? Part of me wants to see that, but at the same time, I don't expect them to win. So I don't know. But either way, it should be interesting. It should be interesting to see how it goes.
A lot going on.
I was just glad that I hit on that because every other that was the other thing about the way that collapse ended was that bets that I had that put together beautifully, they were all just going
Yeah.
away. Like I had a heavy investment on Breanna Stewart to outscore Nafisa Collier because Breanna Stewart's the reigning MVP. Well, before Asia Wilson was named MVP, and if you looked at their splits matched up, like Stewie had a 38-point game against the Lynx. Like she balls out against the Lynx. Like she did not outscore her once, and I was like, and she was the dog. She like in the head-to-head points matchup. I think she was like plus 120. I was like, come on, man, this is ridiculous. She should be minus 150 at least. She has 17. When that collapse started, she has 17 points, and Nafisa Collier had 13 points.
Ugh.
That free throw that she missed would have solidified not only the win, wouldn't have went to overtime, and she would have had one more point than her. She misses the free throw, gets outscored in the overtime, and oh my God, it was brutal. It was rough. That was a rough one. That was a rough one for me. But thank God my fucking little random long shot Leone Fibich to fucking lead the game in threes. Like that shit was just a little sprinkle just because I was like just the amount of like she's been getting a lot more minutes in the playoffs, and I felt like that line was just based off of her regular season production. So I was like, I think she has a shot at home, especially since Sabrina Ionescu had not played well against the Lynx. I was like, she's gonna get some open looks, and she knocks them down. You know, those Germans, man, they like once they have their fucking form, it's like they're wearing a brace. Like that shit does
Yeah.
not crack.
Niggas is a mechanical.
Yo, for real. So I had a lot of faith in her, so she came through for me, but everything else just fell apart. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. I like Bridget Carlton is my dark horse for a big bet for tomorrow night for the Lynx, unfortunately, but it is what it is. The numbers don't lie, so I'm loving Bridget Carlton to lead in threes, but we'll see how it plays out. And then we got nothing else, right? Fucking, we just have that weird ass Thursday game. Who's the Thursday game this week again? I forgot. It's a weird matchup though.
It's
Was
not a
it
good one either.
Seahawks and Falcons? I think. No, it's not. It's not Seahawks. The Seahawks play the
No,
Falcons,
because
but I don't think
Seahawks.
that's a Thursday game.
Yeah, but no, because Seahawks already just played Thursday.
Yeah, and the Falcons played the Thursday before. No, this week is Vikings Rams.
Oh, that's not
Oh no,
bad.
not Vikings Rams. No, I'm lying. It's not. It's Broncos Saints. That's the one. It's
Oh,
the Sean Payton revenge game.
yeah. I knew it wasn't. It wasn't particularly a good one
Yeah, it's a weird game. It's
unless you're
NFC,
fully
AFC.
invested in.
Yeah, I think the only thing that the whole storyline, they're just gonna give you the whole Sean Payton returning
Overplayed,
back to New
Jesus.
Orleans. That's all it's gonna be.
Yeah. The
Which I don't know what to do
hurricane.
with that either, because I think that the Saints are they 2.5 point dogs at home?
Yeah, the Broncos threw up a disgusting performance last on Sunday.
Bounce back for the Broncos or bounce back for the
Could be.
Saints? I don't know. All I
I
know
can't.
is I'm not doing
I
two and
don't
a
think it could
halves.
be. I don't. It can't be a bounce back because it's Spencer Rattler.
Yeah,
Because
that's
what's he
true.
bouncing back to? You know?
But that's the thing is that I'm not even the only way I could go is to give the 2.5. I'm not taking
Yeah.
unless I see something I really love. I'm not taking 2.5 point dogs.
Yeah.
I'm swearing
Done
off
with
of
it.
them because I don't want to live that agony of being down three. Like yo, I hate that yo being down three with two and
Yeah.
a half. It does nothing.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm good.
Hmm.
But anyhow, we'll do a full preview for the big Thursday night game next week. Until then,